Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States and Mrs. Laura Bush.
Thank you all for coming. Please be seated. Thank you. Welcome to the White House. Looks like we have a distinguished crowd here today. Most of you are renowned scholars, intellectuals, and writers. You've earned reputations for expressing man's noblest deeds and thoughts in pristine, eloquent English, just like me. Justice, thanks for coming. Appreciate you being here. I thank members of the Cabinet who've joined us. Ambassador, glad you're here. I want to say a word about Bruce Cole. Bruce is an accomplished art historian, a good man, and he's been a great chairman of the National Endowment of the Humanities. Bruce understands what all of you understand. At their best, the arts and humanities express the ideals that define our nation. The United States is a country defined not by bloodline, race, or creed, but by our character and convictions. We're united by an unyielding principle, and that is all men are created equal. We firmly believe that each man and woman has the right to make the most of their God-given talents. And we believe that all are endowed with the divine gift of freedom. These ideals have sustained us throughout the centuries. And as a new generation is called to defend the principles of our democracy, they must understand why these principles are worthy of effort and sacrifice. The National Endowment for the Humanities is at the forefront of this vital educational mission. One way the endowment fulfills this mission is through the We the People program, which we established in 2002 to address gaps in our children's knowledge of history and civics. In just 5 years, the program has awarded nearly 1,400 grants to projects that preserve historical sites, documents and artifacts, and train future historians. In partnership with the American Library Association, We the People has produced an annual bookshelf on enduring American themes such as courage and freedom. More than 6,000 sets of these books have been provided to schools and public libraries across the country. We the People teacher workshops have allowed thousands of educators to discover American history in places where history was made. Ellis Island or the waters of Pearl Harbor. The initiative's National Digital Newspaper Program is making millions of pages of historic American newspapers accessible online. Countless students and teachers and historians will benefit from these important first drafts of history. In all these ways, We the People does an outstanding job of passing America's rich heritage on to future generations. Today, I'm pleased to unveil a new project under this program, the Picturing America Initiative. This initiative will educate children about the great people and places and moments in our history using American art and masterpieces that depict them. Much better for us to hear about educational programs from someone who's probably more qualified than me, like a former teacher or a librarian. And so it's my honor to welcome Laura, the First Lady.
Thank you all. Thanks so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you all. This is a very distinguished crowd. I see as I look out. I have a few acknowledgments, and I'm probably going to leave someone out because there's so many great people who've joined us here. Justice Scalia, thank you so much. Thank you all for being here with us. Chairman Cole, the chairman of the National Endowment for the Humanities, who has had the whole idea of this Picturing America. The members of Congress that have joined us here, Secretary Kempthorne, Secretary Spellings, other members of the administration who've joined us, Students, teachers, scholars, and distinguished guests, welcome to the White House for the official launch of Picturing America. Welcome also to a special guest of the NEH, the ambassador from Italy, Ambassador Castellaneta. Thank you so much for joining us as well. I also want to thank all of the partners who are collaborating on this important project with the National Endowment for the Humanities. The Institute of Museum and Library Services, and Ann Bradice is here, who's the chairman of the Institute. The Department of Health and Human Services Office of Head Start. The National Park Service, Mary Bomar, the chairman of the National Park Service, is here, and the American Library Association. Today, the East Room is filled with life and activity, as is often the case at the White House. But there are times, believe it or not, when the East Room is quiet and George has the place to himself. George Washington, that is. This striking image of the founder of our country, father of our country, is a Gilbert Stuart portrait made in 1797. This painting is one of several versions that Gilbert Stuart painted, and the first version of this portrait was a gift for a member of the British Parliament who supported American independence. That version, called the Lansdowne portrait, is now part of the collection at the Smithsonian National Portrait Gallery. This painting, the painting that's been here in the White House, was the famous one rescued by Dolly Madison during the War of 1812, just before the British troops set fire to the White House. Thanks to Dolly Madison, this portrait of George Washington has remained a permanent part of the White House collection and an important part of American history for nearly 200 years. And now this portrait will take on another role in the life of our country as one of 40 iconic images in the Picturing America collection. Picturing America is a National Endowment for the Humanities initiative, a part of We the People, and an example of partners working across agencies and disciplines to bring the American experience to life in classrooms and libraries around our country. Thousands of schools and millions of people will have the chance to view this collection in their own communities. Schools and community libraries that apply between now and April 15th, 2008, will receive this collection. Today, we invite all schools and libraries to apply for this collection, and that means public, private, parochial, and charter schools, homeschool consortia, and community libraries. The collection is made up of images that capture important moments in American life and present them through painting, sculpture, photography, architecture, and decorative arts. The collection is accompanied by an in-depth teaching guide which shows educators and librarians how to use these works within the context of their core subjects, including history, literature, math, and science. A comprehensive website that anyone can visit and see the images and share the experience was just launched. The website address is www.picturingamerica.nih.gov. That's G-O-V. The goal is to share the American experience with a wide audience, children and adults from our largest cities to our most rural communities. Already, more than 1,500 schools and libraries in all 50 states have received the materials as part of a 2007 pilot project. Educators have long known the value of dynamic, interactive learning environments, and they love these bright, high-quality teaching tools. Rose Corey, a teacher in Schaumburg, Illinois, said, "We're overwhelmed with how the size of the pictures conveys so much more information than one can get from a reproduction in a book." Some of the selections are on display in the grand foyer, and we'll also see examples in the video and in Chairman Cole's presentation. The vivid reproductions bring words and ideas to life. Everyone will love examining these scenes, which stretch from the early Republic to modern America. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Bruce Cole, the Chairman of the National Endowment for the Humanities, and our great friend. Thank you very much, Dr. Cole. Come on up.
Thank you, Mrs. Bush, and thank you all for coming today. I'm also grateful for the President and Congress for their unwavering support of the National Endowment for the Humanities and its We the People program. Before I begin my remarks, I'd like to show you a brief video created by the History Channel. It provides a great overview of Picturing America.
Bravery, perseverance,
democracy, determination. America!
As much as we value literacy and the written word, the visual representation can unlock a piece of a story that may not be expressed in words, and that a visual image can tell a story in a different way.
There's two main things that students can't get from textbooks. And the first is a sense of authenticity and of discovery because the work's already been done for them.
You can read a book, walk away from it, and have no recollection of the things that you've studied.
Picturing America is a wonderful program where students use visuals and use artwork from different periods of time and history to explore the stories of history.
One of the most exciting things about Picturing America is these images can be brought into any classroom. This is the Chrysler Building in New York City. A science class can look at the Chrysler Building and identify the architecture, talk about the different shapes, the different pieces, the different parts.
I think it's that. It looks like a bird. This is supposed to be a symbol for freedom of the bald eagle.
There are connections that they can have with George Washington, they could have with the people marching for voting rights, that they can have with the woman in the Depression with her children.
It looks like they're really poor and that the kids are afraid or nervous or sad.
They can understand that and they can relate to it.
You could tell that by the clothes that they're wearing, like they're ready to do something, like to fight for something that they really want.
Pictures are the most direct route to understanding our history. We're a people who are not united by blood or by land or by a single religion. For our democracy to survive, our citizens need to know what our ideas are.
The kids are able to look at the painting and sort of unravel it.
I know he has something on his mind.
They recognize something, they mimic the gestures of some of the figures in the painting. It's like they're internalizing what they're seeing in the picture.
We have these unbelievable, huge, pieces of art.
What's actually going on here?
Probably before blacks or women had any rights to vote.
There's such a big difference between these two pictures. It just seems so much lighter, the mood, versus here. The African Americans here had such a bad time.
What I think America is really about is that if you really want something, you have to try to put all your effort into it to get what you want.
The ideas that it brings up have to do with what it means to be American, and I like that the pictures and photographs and sculptures and all of those different mediums still link back to that sort of central question and idea.
I think the program is so good and so important because it honors different learning styles in the classroom and because it values the idea that American history is full of so many different stories and perspectives.
Art can express moods, which is something that words sometimes can't do.
It has an effect on them that they will share with others.
It's the chance to take concepts and history and to make them vivid and real.
A picture says 1,000 words. In this case, it's absolutely true.
Picturing America puts great art where it can do the most good. To find out more and learn how your school or library can participate, go to picturingamerica.nih.gov.
Caring, hope, bravery,
freedom,
America.
That's not an easy act to follow. My thanks to Libby O'Connell and the History Channel for helping us see Picturing America at work. The President spoke earlier about the endowment's We the People program. Picture in America supports We the People's mission in a unique and exciting way. As I stated in the video, and as the President also mentioned, Americans are not united by race or religion or birth. Instead, we are bound by ideas and ideals that every citizen must know for our republic to survive. That survival is not preordained. The habits and principles of our democracy must be learned anew and passed down to each generation. Picturing America helps us meet that challenge. It strengthens our democracy by using great American art to ensure that our common heritage and ideals are known, studied, and remembered. Works of art are more than mere ornaments for the elite. They are primary documents of a civilization. As the teachers in the video noted, a written record or a textbook tells you one thing, but art reveals something else. Our students and citizens deserve to see American art that shows us where we've come from, what we have endured, and where we're headed. With this in mind, the NEH has chosen notable American works of art that will bring our history and principles alive for students and citizens of all ages. The scope of this program is unprecedented for the NEH. Through Picturing America, we are extending the endowment's reach exponentially by bringing American history and art to millions of young people and their families. An endeavor of this magnitude is impossible, of course, without help. The NEH is fortunate to have the support of the federal agency partners that Mrs. Bush mentioned earlier. In particular, I want to thank two people I had the privilege of working with at the NEH, Ann Radice, the director of the IMLS, and Dan Schneider, who oversees Head Start as the acting assistant secretary for children and families at HHS. My thanks also to Director Mary Bomar and Deputy Director Lindy Harvey at the National Park Service. NEH is grateful as well for the cooperation of Deborah Robertson and Lainey Castle at the American Library Association, and for the generosity of Robert and Clarice Smith. The endowment also wishes to thank the National Trust for the Humanities, in particular its chairman, Robert Perry, and the Honorable William D. Rolnick and his wife, the Honorable Nancy Ellison. And we appreciate the Department of Education and the Crayola Company for their promotional help with Picturing America. The heart of Picturing America is the images. So let's look at a few and see what they can tell us about America. One way teachers can use Picturing America is to show students how art conveys a common theme or principle from our history. Several of the images provide a wonderful way to study our founding principles of freedom and equality. Here's Washington crossing the Delaware. When we think of the American Revolution, this is one of the first images that springs to mind, which shows how powerfully a work of art can shape our historical memory. The general stands resolute in the lead boat as his men strain to navigate the icy waters while the American flag flies above them. Washington is leading a daring crossing of the Delaware River to launch a surprise morning attack that will turn the tide of the war. This painting reminds us just how perilous and improbable the American Revolution was, and how strongly the founders believed in the principles they were fighting for: freedom and equality. Now let's view a memorable image from the 20th century, a photograph of the Selma to Montgomery March for voting rights in 1965. This image captures the courage and determination of the foot soldiers of the civil rights movement. Just as in the painting of Washington and his men, the American flag plays a central role. Four figures at the front of the group march briskly in unison. They are not armed, But like the soldiers crossing the Delaware, they press forward, resolved to uphold our founding principles. These two works of art vividly remind us that freedom and equality, while never easy, are the precious birthright of all Americans, and every generation must be courageous in defending these principles. Now, as some of you may have noticed, it's an election year. So let's conclude by looking at two paintings that help us reflect on the history and meaning of American democracy. First, we have an 1852 painting by George Caleb Bingham called The County Election. It captures the boisterous nature of frontier democracy, including the presence of plenty of alcoholic refreshment for the voters. As one student in the video noted, we see only white males voting in this image. Viewing this painting today helps students understand the remarkable progress American democracy has made. But above all, this lively masterpiece reminds us that Election Day is a vibrant and vital moment when Americans come together to exercise their right of self-government. Next, we see Norman Rockwell's beloved work, Freedom of Speech, painted during World War II. A working man rises to speak at a town meeting. He's a citizen, not a spectator, and he is stating his opinion on the issues of the day. Here, Rockwell vividly depicts the importance of every individual's voice in a democracy at a time when free speech and other fundamental rights were under attack around the world. Seeing this image and learning its context gives us a renewed appreciation for the blessings of American democracy. These are just a few examples of how Picturing America can help our young people connect to the people, places, events, and ideas that have shaped our nation. I've had the privilege of visiting schools that received Picturing America during its pilot phase. One of these was Robert Brent Elementary School here in Washington, and I'm pleased to note that some of the teachers and students from that school are here today. Thank you for coming. During these visits, it's been deeply moving to see the enthusiasm and creativity that Picturing America sparks in our young people. These masterpieces will give millions of students and their families a deeper understanding of American history and principles, and instill in them a greater love for our country. By appealing to our citizens' eyes, Picturing America will make an indelible impression on their minds and hearts, and that will help to prepare and inspire them as they add their own chapters to our nation's remarkable story. Thank you all for coming today. I hope you are as excited about Picturing America as we are. And now I'd like to ask Mrs. Bush to come up.
Thank you very much, Bruce. Thank you so much. I can tell, I think this would be really, really fun to teach. As a teacher myself, I'd love to have this set in my classroom. And thank you very much, Bruce. Thank you to the National Endowment for the Humanities for the whole We the People program, which has been so terrific, and this is a great addition to it. And I want to thank all the partners as well that have worked with the National Endowment for the Humanities for making Picturing America possible for so many schools and community libraries around our country. Now I'd like to invite you to a reception in the West Room, dining room.